New course requirement for high school students making its way through the state legislature this week. It would require students to take a class in economics and personal finance before graduating. Sarah Wilson joins us live in the newsroom with what this means for high schoolers. Sarah.
Sanika, if signed into law, the class would focus on topics like credit card management, home mortgages, and taxes. State Senator Chris Gebhardt is sponsoring the legislation. He says far too often the financial decisions teenagers and young adults make can put them at a disadvantage later in life. By requiring this course, he says students will learn how to manage money and ultimately get off on the right financial foot.
We're going to arm them with the education so that when they're confronted with decisions about, should they take out this loan? What kind of mortgage should they get? How does this car loan work? Because statistics show the earlier they understand the investment side of the world, the more successful they'll be.
The bill now moves to the State House for consideration. If it passes and is approved by the governor, it would take effect for the 2024-2025 school year. In the newsroom, Sarah Wilson, ABC 27 News.
Thank you, Sarah. New information in the shooting death of an infant in Lancaster. The coroner's office confirms the 15-month-old boy died from a gunshot wound to the head and neck. Police say the infant was shot Tuesday by a 3-year-old inside the home on Woodward Street. The manner of death was ruled a homicide. We have heard from a few viewers in Lebanon County concerned they haven't received their mail-in ballots. And earlier this week, we reported mail delays in Carlisle. So what can voters still waiting for ballots do? I talked to local election officials to get some answers. If you're a mid-state voter still waiting on your mail-in ballot,
I had my application in for quite some time.
You're not alone. Lebanon County Commissioner Jo Ellen Litz is right there with you.
Hopefully I'll receive it today or tomorrow.
Litz says ballots were supposed to go out in a big batch.
And there were delays for various reasons that got them in the mail, but now we're waiting on the mail.
Lebanon County Director of Elections Sean Drasher says just be patient.
Everything that was requested prior to a week ago has been mailed.
If you're still worried, voters can go to their county elections office and vote by mail in person.
They can come into our office until November 1st and apply again. And we will cancel that first ballot and issue them a second ballot.
Please allow about 20 minutes per person for us to process that.
Cumberland County Director of Elections Bethany Salzarullo says people can also hand deliver their mail-in ballots to the county elections office. She says Cumberland County is adding some extended and weekend hours for this.
To allow for people who work during the day, like I do as well, to be able to drop off their ballots outside of those regular business hours.
Lebanon County has one more option for dropping off your ballot.
You could use the drop box. It's outside the back of the courthouse. We have one drop box. It's monitored all the time, and it's open during normal business hours.
But if you're dropping it off, an important reminder.
It is so important that you bring only your ballot for deposit in the drop box.
Now, if all else fails, you can go to your polling place and vote on Election Day, even if you've requested a mail-in ballot. But here's the important piece. You must bring that ballot and all materials that came with it and surrender those at your polling place before voting. If you don't, you can only vote using a provisional ballot, which officials tell me is more time-consuming for both you and poll workers. New tonight, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court has announced that it will take up the case of whether or not undated mail-in ballots should be counted in the Commonwealth. The case was filed by the Republican National Committee and Pennsylvania Republicans. The state Supreme Court has ordered Republicans to have their briefs submitted by Monday, October 24th at noon. The Department of State has to submit them by Tuesday. Several members of former President Trump's administration are in Lancaster County for a 2-day rally. The Reawaken America tour is at Spooky Nook Sports today and tomorrow. Former Trump advisor Michael Flynn is one of the event's sponsors. Gubernatorial candidate Doug Mastriano is expected to speak along with Eric Trump, Roger Stone, and MyPillow CEO Mike Lindell. The tour promotes Christian nationalism, and many attendees still insist Donald Trump won re-election, which he did not. The media was not invited to attend the event. With just 18 days to go before Election Day, President Biden is back on the road, highlighting student loan forgiveness, low unemployment, and a reduction in the deficit. But Republicans are pushing back on the same issues. M. Nguyen reports.
With the economy top of mind for many voters, President Joe Biden today at the White House touting what he called a record-breaking $1.4 trillion reduction to the deficit this year, warning Republicans will wipe out this progress if they take over Congress.
And the Republicans can criticize my economic record, but look at what I've inherited and what I've done.
Biden also condemning Republicans for proposing to repeal lower prescription drug prices and target Social Security and Medicare.
Everything they're proposing would make inflation worse.
Republicans firing back, pointing to the nation's relentlessly high inflation rates that climbed to 8.2% in September.
Well, let's start, ladies and gentlemen, with the terrible prices. From groceries to gas to everything in between. We need to get back to common sense economic policies.
In this final stretch before Election Day, Biden continues to hit several states. Yesterday, he joined Pennsylvania's Senate Democratic candidate John Fetterman on the trail. Fetterman about 4 points ahead of his Republican opponent, TV personality Dr. Mehmet Oz.
He seems to care more about the criminals than the innocent.
Oz doesn't care about Pennsylvania.
Across the nation, other races also heating up. In Georgia, more than 100,000 people casting early votes on the first day of early in-person voting, surpassing a previous record of 72,000 for a midterm cycle. There, the Democratic gubernatorial candidate Stacey Abrams up against incumbent Governor Brian Kemp, getting star power from entrepreneur Oprah Winfrey.
Is there political hope possible these days?
Although it's unclear where President Biden is traveling next, he's set to head to Florida on November 1st to fundraise for gubernatorial candidate Charlie Crist, who's running against incumbent Governor Ron DeSantis. M. Nguyen, ABC News, Washington.
The House committee investigating January 6th has now subpoenaed former President Trump. The panel sent a letter to Trump's lawyers today requiring that he testify under oath. The subpoena also orders him to turn over documents related to the riots. The panel says it found that Trump personally orchestrated a multi-part effort to overturn the 2020 election. If Trump agrees to testify under oath, he is expected to answer the committee's questions by mid-November. Steve Bannon has been sentenced to 4 months in prison for 2 counts of contempt of Congress. Former President Trump's one-time chief strategist defied a subpoena from the House Select Committee investigating the January 6th attack on the Capitol. In addition to prison time, he will pay a $6,500 fine. Bannon spoke after the sentencing, saying he will appeal. He was shouted down by protesters yelling "traitor."
On November 8th, the American people will raise judgment, and we will groom the Biden administration ends on the evening of the 8th of November.
No matter how the November election turns out, the Biden administration will remain in place for another 2 years. Still to come on ABC 27 News at 7, it's Back to the Future Day at Whitaker Center, the time-traveling display you can check out.